Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the House of Steel broadcast channel. We're thrilled to have you join us again back in the house with a live guest. My buddy, Khal Onyx, is here, and we're really excited about this episode of Can We Talk? This is a topic that is constantly talked about in our community and debated. Old guard versus new guard. We're not necessarily debating the merits of either today, but we're going to talk about whether or not this topic is still relevant for our community. But first, I'd love to welcome in my buddy Khal.
What's going on, everybody? How you doing, Sir Steele?
I am doing very well. How are you?
I'm doing excellent.
What are you smoking?
I am smoking a Padron Anniversary 64. It's a delicious stick, and I'm chasing it with, what are you drinking? John Bar.
Oh, and apparently you've had plenty since you can't remember what you're drinking.
Is there another way to drink?
Constantly is my favorite way to drink.
Who drinks to remember? We all drink to forget.
Say all your exes. I am also drinking John Bar, which is a wonderful, delightfully smoky scotch. And I'm smoking an Acid Cuba Cuba by George State's my favorite, one of my favorite sticks. So today we are going to get started with a round of questions, just kind of pop questions. And to ask those questions and lead us in these answers, we are going to bring in my Alpha Boy Ogun from our production studios in Atlanta. Welcome, Boy Ogun.
Hello, everybody. Hello, sir. Hello, Khal. How you doing?
Good.
Hello, and happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday to you, too. All right. So we have a few questions for our autumn edition. And the first question we have is, Sir and Khal, what are your favorite fall activities?
Favorite fall activities? Same as in the spring, summer, and winter. Sex.
Now try one where you don't fall and find yourself unable to get back up. I will jump to a PG and say my favorite fall activity. It's a tie between finding my Halloween costume for the year, because I love that, and football. Absolute. I mean, it would have to be football. It's the most wonderful time of the year when you can watch sports on Sunday, Monday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
But Sunday, you can go to service starting at 1 p.m. and finishing at 11 p.m. It's amazing.
I was raised Baptist, so that is not new to me. I'm quite used to showing up at 11 a.m. and exiting sometime Tuesday morning. So that is fine with me.
But what beats the halftime blowjob?
I mean, nothing in the Baptist tradition. I will tell you that. Nothing beats a good tight end or that midday.
Wide receiver.
Yeah, not too wide.
All right. So for question number 2, we have the favorite fall food.
Say again, what's the question?
The favorite food for fall.
Favorite food. So I like everything, and I don't know if there's a favorite. A couple of years ago, I got into cooking gumbo, which I absolutely love. Catfish. So I'm gonna say my number one favorite meal. I'm gonna give you that. It's a very simple one, and that's fried chicken breast and French fries.
Okay. Sir?
I don't know if there's one particular food that I love in fall. But I will say my favorite fall meal is Thanksgiving. Like I love the combination: the turkey, the stuffing, the mac and cheese, collard greens, ham, yams, desserts. I love that. Um, Big buffet of food at Thanksgiving.
So I kind of gave my favorite food, but if I would have to say a favorite fall food, then it would be chili.
Hmm?
Yeah,
It would be chili. Definitely chili.
chili works. I like
With rice or crackers?
Thank you.
Chili with rice or crackers?
it. Just an opinion. Just an opinion.
Okay, so for question number 3, we have the favorite fall drink. So what is your favorite drink for the fall?
Favorite drink for the fall. I'm gonna go classy on you guys and just say a nice dessert wine. Because I'm classy like that.
All right, Taylor Port. I'm going to say my favorite fall food is probably mulled apple cider. I think that is just delicious when you take the apple cider and it's warm and it's full of spices and scotch. It's just amazing. So mulled apple cider would be my drink.
Okay, so now we have question number 4. What is your favorite fall destination?
I'm gonna say oh. So I enjoyed going to Ecuador when I was flying in the fall. I'm gonna say Ecuador.
I'm going to say not necessarily this as a destination, but on the drive to Rochester, there was a stretch on highway. What is that? Is it 91? I don't know. But there's
84.
yeah, there's a stretch of highway where it's mountainous, and you just see all of these trees, and just seeing all of the different colors of those trees. I love that so much. It's so beautiful. So along that ride, I enjoy that. I guess my favorite fall destination is the U.S. Open, even though technically that's still summer.
Yeah.
That's still summer. City Field, if the Mets are in the playoffs, probably my favorite.
So I'll give you a destination to nowhere to see the fall foliage is take the Metro North to White Plains, and you'll see all the colors. It's fucking amazing. It's beautiful. It's a great ride. If you haven't done it, you owe it to yourself. And you can go out to Briar Cliff and further out and see more colors. Like you could ride all the way up to Peekskill and Poughkeepsie. It's nice. It's a beautiful ride. It's very simple.
Okay. All right, so now that we have Halloween coming up, who is your favorite horror movie villain?
Michael Myers.
Ah, a classic.
That motherfucker, he's relentless.
Language YouTube. I am going to say Michael Myers. Michael Myers is absolutely my favorite. His little head turns when people are talking, when he looks like he's trying to figure out what's happening. Absolute best. Michael Myers.
Okay, and so now the next one is an either or. Would you rather do a haunted house or a harvest festival?
A haunted house.
A haunted house every day, no matter what season.
Okay.
Middle of spring, haunted house.
All right, now we have 3 different ones. What is your favorite fall scent? And we have cinnamon, apple, or fire pit.
And you said fall scent.
Fall scent, yes.
Cinnamon, apple, or fire pit.
Cinnamon.
fire pit.
Okay.
I like the smell of burning things.
All right. So roasted marshmallows or caramel apples?
Caramel apples all day long, roasted marshmallows.
I'm kind of torn. I'm kind of 50-50.
Okay.
In that I never really crave either.
Okay. I never craved the marshmallows, but I could do it in the apples anytime.
I like a marshmallow and a s'more,
Mhm.
but just a toasted marshmallow.
You know, I had my first s'more just like 2 years ago.
Really?
Wow.
It's a terrible life.
Okay, so now we have our favorite fall holiday, either Halloween or Thanksgiving.
That's rough. That's actually a choice. I don't know, because I love Thanksgiving and the food, the gathering, the people, the friends.
Mhm.
But Halloween is just cool. I'm gonna say Halloween. I'm gonna say Halloween.
Okay.
It's not even a tough choice. It's Halloween's hands down. Halloween is my favorite holiday of all holidays. So no matter where you put it, it's Halloween.
That's why you never take off that mask.
Thank you for joining us on Khal's last episode. The next time he's with us, it's going to be on Can You Shut Up?
No.
Okay, so the next one we have is hot chocolate or hot cider.
I'm gonna go with hot cider spiked.
What would you spike it with?
Bourbon.
I will also go hot cider.
Sir, would you spike it or not?
Well, as you know, I'm a teetotaler, so I would probably, you know what? I'll try something new and spike it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll try something new. Why not?
All right.
And what would you spike it with?
A smoky scotch. Or I would smoke it with apple wood.
Ooh, yes.
All right. So the next one is, do we have a scary movie or a spooky story? Which do you prefer?
It would have to be a scary movie. Because I don't think I've ever heard a spooky story that really scared me. So, yeah, it would have to be a movie.
Okay.
If we're including books as stories, absolutely a scary story. I've never been made afraid by a movie, but there are several horror novels that have made me feel unsettled or nervous.
And we have a tendency to laugh at horror movies.
Yeah,
especially things that shouldn't be funny. We find absolutely hilarious.
Okay. So now that you mentioned horror movies, so what is your favorite horror film?
The Exorcist.
The Omen.
What
No, Night of the Living Dead, the original, the black and white.
Oh, would it kill a black guy?
But he was a hero.
He was a hero.
He made it all the way to the last 3 minutes.
And racism got him killed.
A tale as old as time. But yeah, it's the original Night of the Living Dead.
Absolutely, the saddest part of this. Like, wait a minute. Yeah, if you haven't seen it, check it out.
All right.
Spoiler alert.
Yes, the black guy dies.
The black guy dies in a horror film. Never before seen.
Okay. And I think that we actually have all of our questions.
Oh, well, thank you, Boyleton.
Yes, sir.
for facilitating our question period. And now we will jump right into our topic for today. Old guard and new guard, old guard versus new guard. Is this a relevant topic? And so before we get into our thoughts on this matter, there are some, I want to set the stage for the context in which we are going to discuss this topic. And so when we're looking at old guard principles and new guard principles, we're going to have the conversation based on that. And common old guard principles include discipline, mentorship and apprenticeships, protocols and rituals, discretion, and secrecy. Those were all hallmarks of old guard level. And some of the new guard principles are inclusivity, fluidity in roles, consent and communication, and education and safety. So when we're talking about old guard concepts and new guard concepts, this is how we're framing this conversation for today. So, Khal, there's a lot of conversation that goes on in the community about old guard versus new guard, which is better, which is right and wrong. And I wanted to talk about it because I feel like a lot of this conversation is very divisive. It is I think it has a negative impact on our community to really think about this as you need to be one or the other. And I also find that people will put you in a box based on what they perceive you to be.
Yes. Perception is everything.
Perception is everything. And someone who presents in a kind of traditional leather appearance often can be viewed by people as exclusive when they may be inclusive. They make value judgments about that person kind of in an okay boomer way. And similarly, a lot of people who identify as new guard can be viewed by others as reckless or
Unsafe,
unwilling to accept discipline when discipline is needed. And I think these conversations really are I think that when people box you in, it becomes something that is a very negative thing. It doesn't really leave growth, or it doesn't leave space for people to get to know who you are on a personal level.
Much like the Republican and Democrat, we weaponize the word.
Mm-hmm.
And we fail to take the person, but we take the term.
Mm-hmm.
And we bastardize it and make it something that we want to make it. So now I can prove a point. Oh, he's new guard.
Mm-hmm.
He's old guard. Oh, he's first a person. And to say someone's new guard doesn't mean they're a bad person. To say someone's old guard doesn't mean they're a bad person. It's just basically like anything else, it's chosen beliefs. And we all have a belief system.
Mm.
So old guard is my belief system, old guard is your belief system, and that's okay. And we need to welcome both because we're both eating at the same table.
Yeah, we should be.
Yeah.
We absolutely should be eating at the same table. And so because this conversation is very divisive, you brought up a good example with the politics. If you're viewed as liberal or if you're viewed as conservative, even almost regardless of party, you're lumped into an entire belief system when you may just appreciate points about being liberal or conservative. And you're able to, and because these things are important to you, the values, you choose that party. So, Khal, do you think this conversation is still relevant in 2025?
I feel it has some relevance. And the reason why is to discard old guard. We really are saying we're going to throw away traditions and structures and protocols, and that in itself is a bad thing. So I think the conversation is relevant, but I don't think it should be dominating. I don't think it should be divisive. But I think it's relevant.
I think it's irrelevant, in all honesty. I think, and the reason I think it's irrelevant is because that conversation doesn't lead us into the conversations that we should be having as a community. And those conversations are, how are we going to build a community that is safe for people, that provides the things that in 2025 is necessary. And I feel like if you're going to box yourself in to I'm old guard or I'm new guard, it's kind of like I feel like when you go to a diner and you open that menu, you can have a choice of a million things to eat. I'm from Jersey. We're a diner state, and you can get a menu that's 20 pages, and there's something there for everyone. And I feel like when you put people in one of these boxes, you're saying you're a steakhouse and I'm a sushi bar. And your options are only limited to what's on the menu for that steakhouse or the menu for this sushi bar. Instead of, I can take any of these, I can have any meal that's available on this huge menu. And because of that, I feel like as long as we're stuck in this debate about old guard versus new guard, which is better, we're not looking at the important things. What do we need today? And in all honesty, with the political environment that we're in today and everything else, like any conversation that is not bringing us closer to battle all of these new
Forces.
yeah, these new attacks that are coming out for our community, looking to strip our identities, looking to debase us based on our sexuality, and I think anything other than focusing on that fight is the wrong thing to be focused on.
It's definitely counterproductive.
It's counterproductive. We are infighting at a time where we should really be coming together to support each other, almost regardless of whether or not you agree with that thing or not. And so that's why I think the conversation is no longer relevant. I not only think it's not relevant, I think it's not appropriate. I think it's not important right now. I think that building a safe community is where our focus should be.
That is true. There's truth to that. Because first and foremost, right now, like you said, for the reasons you said, our community should be united and it should be safe. Those are the two things we should be right now. We should be united and then we should be safe. And we can be safe in both new and old guard.
Mm-hmm.
We can be safe and united under either battle.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not the number one thing that the community needs right now. Is it relevant? I still believe it is, but it's not the number one thing that we need right now. We do need unification and we do need safety.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think those things are much more key and much more important. I also think that a lot of times when people have conversations, when I've heard conversations about this topic, it's important to remember that during the time of old guard leather was set up the way it was because of the time that old guard leather was formed. And a lot of these rules and principles and everything were born out of the situation that these people were in at the time. So a lot of when you look at the history of the leather community, and you see it being born out of a military tradition, because Americans who went and fought overseas, went over there, saw different things, learned different things, wanted to bring that back to America where it was not accepted, not readily available. So a lot of the things that could be termed gatekeeping now were put in place for the protection of the people who were participating. Yes. So when you look at how communities, in order to come in, you needed a mentor. You needed to come in, you needed to be trained. There was expectations of privacy and secrecy. And that was a key component. That was paramount. Secrecy was paramount. I mean, you could lose your life, you could lose your job, you could lose your family, you could lose everything just over being kinky. Even a kinky straight person faced a lot of backlash. And so when you think about that, all of these rules about safety, about being ushered in, that was done for the privacy of the members. And safety. And safety. And that was something that was incredibly paramount. Is that something that's necessary today? Not nearly as much. And there are still people who have jobs where being being queer is problematic. You could lose your job. There are jobs where there are times where your sexuality, there are communities where it may not be accepted based on your religious beliefs or practices or things of that nature. But on a whole, it is much easier to be out today than it was obviously in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, when Old Guard leather was really being formed.
I think that is one of the beautiful things about the New Guard is the out and proud that comes with that. It's like I'm not hiding. I'm not going in the closet. I'm not doing that for your comfort, because all that is for other people's comfort. And this is who I am, and damn it, you're gonna accept me for this. And I like that. I like the pride that brings to us as individuals, because the more we hide who we are, hiding brings shame, and it comes from a sense of shame, and that's not good for anybody's mental health. So having a little more out and proud is a wonderful thing. If nothing else about New Guard, that's what I like most about that. It's just you're not gonna hide it.
But we also have to remember that didn't just happen one day.
No, it was.
There was a methodical march towards acceptance, and I hate that term because I hate the notion that someone has to accept me. But that there were steps that had to be taken. And there were a lot of people who had to fight and protest and be on the front lines of that fight and sacrifice a lot in order for us to be to the point where we are now, where gays can get married. When I first came out, I never would have thought that the day would come where I could marry. I just felt like it wasn't in the cards for me. I could have a civil union and adopt kids. I mean, and there was a time where we couldn't. And so I think, like every other fight that has been done by underrepresented people, there were steps that were necessary to get to that. And that's another reason why I feel like this conversation is irrelevant, because when you put yourself on one side or the other, you discount the work that the other side is doing. And there are many New Guard people who are advancing us in many ways. Yes. When you look at gender fluidity now, the ability, the difference between what masculinity looked like in the 50s and what it looks like now. Heck, in the 90s and what it looks like now. It is really night and day. And a lot of that work is being done by people who identify as new guard. Like this, the younger generations have done a lot of work to help people understand all of the different aspects of a person and how all of them are valid and worthy of respect and should be treated equally. And so, as we look at this conversation, I just don't find that old guard versus new guard is ever really framed in why was this rule put in place? Why was this process created? And when you take that out of the equation, then it just makes it seem like, oh, these people just felt like they wanted to be in charge, so they were the doms and you are the subs and everything else, when that really wasn't the case. Even when you think about life before the internet, I know when I first came out, it was hard for me to find venues to go to. And that was mid to late 90s, because online resources were not what they are now. And so even connecting with other kinky people, finding classes were much more difficult, was much more difficult back then than it is now. And so now with the internet making so much more information readily available, where you can really learn about yourself, figure out, oh, I'm not the only person who likes this or thinks this. It just makes it so much easier to come out. And since, again, we live in a time where much more of this is acceptable. I mean, BDSM has been badly portrayed in many movies. And so there is a mainstream understanding, much of it misunderstanding, about our community, but at least the information is there and available. We see that representation, just like gay representation in TV and movies started out being very stereotypical and demeaning in many ways. But we are starting to get that mainstream out there.
Most TV shows get it wrong.
Yes, absolutely.
But they are putting it out there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's becoming less and less subculture, but it's still not portrayed as it is. But even now, it's still hard to find BDSM. It's like, I can imagine in Manhattan, Kansas, it's going to be a little more difficult to find some place to practice a community of BDSM people.
I don't know. Sometimes those smaller communities are where it blossoms because it is able to be done in a very private and discreet way. Like if you're in, you're in. If you're not, you're not.
Don't put me sound, man.
I mean, I'm just saying, if everybody thinks of the cities or the place where you can feel free to practice this stuff, but look where the dungeons are. Look where you'll find like the little kinky spots are often really tucked away.
But I should know that I spent time in Grand Forks, North Dakota, and Mountain Home, Idaho. The kinky I could have found out there.
I'm just saying, if you knew what you were looking for, and sometimes all you have to do is meet that one person.
And that's actually what it takes, that one person, that one like-minded person.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we can't afford to be so divisive and dismissive to someone who might be, quote, not what you are that day or that moment.
Yeah, I think the more important question is, one, do our values align? So am I going to be respected? And that's baseline. If you find you are going to be respected, then you can go to the next level. What are the things? Because two old guard people or two new guard people can meet, and then in the course of conversation find they're really not a kinky match.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with it. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. Everybody's not going to match everybody else. Everybody's not going to be for everybody else. But I think the important thing to remember is when you start excluding people, and then that is a process kind of dehumanization, where it's like I'm putting you in this box because I think you're this, and I'm not really getting to see all of the other stuff that's layered inside of that box that could be beneficial to me. And maybe you have something. We may not agree on 5 things, but maybe we can connect on this 6th thing. And that could be the impetus for us to teach each other and learn from each other and grow. And then have an amazing kinky experience or a set of experiences. So you mentioned earlier, one of your favorite things about New Guard is the pride in who they are and the freedom of expression. What are some other things about New Guard do you appreciate? Based on what we talked about, inclusivity, fluidity in roles, consent and communication, and education and safety.
The New Guard does allow for more inclusivity, and that's a wonderful thing. Because I don't think we need to be so structured that if someone's slightly different, now you can't sit at our table. And I like the fact that the New Guard will be more inclusive on what gets slightly different. Like previously, women weren't quote allowed, and that's madness. It's like, no, women can play, men can play, trans can play, we all can play. So there is room at the table for everyone. So the inclusivity would be what I think is the most important tenet of the New Guard.
I do love the inclusivity, but sometimes I wonder, because I still see a lot of exclusivity, even among people who would identify as New Guard. And, a sad component of any society, so not just ours in America right now, any society, when you think about when the British left England and came to settle in America, they came for religious freedom and then persecuted everyone who did not believe what they believed. And often, you find that oppressed people oppress people.
Yeah.
And so once you get a little room, then you want to make room for you, but people don't always make room for others.
It's like now, like we've already mentioned with politics, a country of immigrants is punishing and hurting immigrants.
I mean,
Duh.
at IMSL this year, my house collaborated with the Stone Leather family, and we hosted a hospitality suite where we did demos. And at this demo, I did 2 penetration demos. One with a cis man and another with a trans man. And people were very surprised that a trans man was in the scene. And the fact that they were surprised means that inclusivity really hasn't yet gone where it really needs to go, because it's something that people don't see readily at these things. I remember years ago, I had a scene in the hallway outside the Onyx suite at MAL with a non-binary person who presents female. And people,
You remember?
yeah, but people were shocked by that. And so, even though inclusivity is something that is kind of a hallmark of New Guard and something that I also really appreciate about New Guard, it still isn't pervasive to where we are all playing with each other. We have a saying in the house, I say all the time in the house, kink has no gender. If somebody knows how to flog well and you like to be flogged, you can have an amazing scene with that person regardless of their job. And that's still not pervasive. And even in our own community, there are many people who are who practice hatred against our trans siblings, who and they're not all over.
That's true.
So, I mean, a lot of this still happens. Racism is still pervasive in our communities. Misogyny is still pervasive. Transphobia is still pervasive. So, while inclusivity is an amazing thing,
there's still work to be done.
There's still lots of work to be done. I think my favorite thing about New Guard is probably the ability to be fluid in your roles. I love the fact that you could be a dom to one person and a sub to someone else. I love that now switches are recognized. You don't just have to be this or that, a dom or a sub. You could be a switch. I love the fact that you can be a side now. And I think that now that we're allowing people to say, I want to order a number of things from this menu, and you may not think that these two meals go together, but I'm going to bring them together, and it's going to be absolutely awesome. I think that is the thing that I appreciate most.
And if you think about old guard practices, they all were switches. Because you started as a boy, and then you became a servant and a master. Mm-hmm. Whether you practiced submission after, that was on you, but you started being submissive to someone. Mm-hmm. So switching isn't new, but now we can switch from Tuesday to Wednesday. Hell, we can switch from 9 p.m. to midnight. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, well, I'm sub with this one and I'm down with that one, and that's a wonderful, because it allows you to be the full you.
The full you, and that is the thing. As a community that's built on pleasure, our goal is pleasure.
At the end of the day, it's about getting over.
At the end of the day, it's about feeling amazing. How do you want to feel when this is over? And for some people, bondage is security. When they're bound, that's when they feel most safe. For others, bondage increases the exhilaration that comes from the fact that you're not in control. And that fear is the motivating force. So behind the pleasure that you're receiving. So I think that fluidity is the thing that is most. That's my favorite thing about the New Guard principles.
Yeah, how do we pigeonhole you and tell you, no, go out and have a good time within this space?
Yeah, in this tiny little box. Old Guard. What are some of your favorite things about Old Guard principles?
Structure, discipline, education,
training, probably more than education.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, because it was the main tenets of Old Guard was definitely the structure and the discipline. And as we said, this is birthed from the military, and that's what these guys knew, and it was something they understood and appreciated, and it was something they always wanted to maintain. So that discipline, the BDSM born out of that discipline, is just something that they really held tightly onto, and I love the discipline. I love the fact that you have to act a certain way, and that discipline for me, and my discipline means I'm only going to do what I know how to do. I'm not going to assume a role. I'm going to learn a role, and then I'm going to carry that out. I'm not going to execute things that I don't know, and that's what that discipline means for me. That's what I appreciate the most. most. I think sometimes in New Guard there's, you know what, I can do this, and there was a progression with Old Guard to where you would, by the time you started doing certain kinks, there was a community that knew that you knew how to do it. And I think what some New Guard that's somewhat bypassed or that's somewhat unknown, that you suddenly emerge on the scene and you're a master. Oh, okay, what if you're a wow? And who made you a master? And I think that's something that we need to work on for the community, is just to know that people are actually safe.
Mhm.
Because you can put on a meerkat and pronounce yourself to be whatever you want.
Mhm.
But there needs to be, I would like there to be some type of, I don't know, system in place that recognizes you as such, instead of you recognizing yourself.
Mhm.
I like the discipline of Old Guard. I really do.
Yeah, I definitely feel that my favorite part is the structure, and with structure comes safety. And now, so much of there's so much negativity, animosity on social media platforms where people are jumping in and judging without knowing all of the facts. And there's nothing really in place where if something does occur, if there is some infraction that affects safety or something like that, there's really no structure in place where this person can be held accountable and where there's reformation and then reconciliation with the community. And now, basically, we just seem to exist in a cancel culture where we take somebody who has 20 great things to offer the community. And if we can get them, if there can be some reformation, well, first some accountability, then reformation, that there can be reconciliation with the community. Those structures aren't in place anymore.
Yeah, we're quick to shun.
We're quick to shun people and just dismiss them from the community. And there are times where the shunning is 1,000% appropriate because this person represents a clear and present danger. Their unwillingness to accept accountability means that they will remain a danger or things. But there are many other people who are contrite and can be brought back.
And people make mistakes.
People make mistakes.
And if you're willing to learn from that mistake, and let's say I hurt you,
Mhm.
and you forgive me, and I recognize my role in hurting you, and I take accountability for that, we should be able to move forward.
Yeah.
And okay, well, he learned, and now we're good.
Mhm.
Now, if I continue to hurt you, especially the same way, now I'm problematic.
Mhm.
But if I learn from hurting you and you forgive me, then the community should forgive me as well. Because if you can forgive me, the person who was never harmed, they worked it out.
Mhm.
It's okay.
Mhm.
They want to move forward. Because shunning people doesn't allow you to move forward. Whatever happened stays there. There's no real change. You stay in that moment. And I think if we're gonna, I think society, as a society, as a people, as a community, I think forgiveness is one of the most powerful things we can do with and for each other. I think we have to have the ability to forgive. Now, like I say, you can't forgive a person for the 110th consent violation. No, they're toxic. They're problematic. They need to be shunned. But simple, mistakes happen because we can't look for a community to be perfect from an imperfect world. And we're all imperfect people.
Yeah. The other thing I really appreciate from the old guard traditions, are like the traditions and the rituals that happen. I love the principle of gifted leather. I think that somebody handing you something and saying, take this with you so that you know I'm with you on your journey. And here's a tool you can use as you move forward in your journey. I think those things are so meaningful. I think that, I've seen many times where someone in the community will pass and their leather will be auctioned off and people will be queuing up to get a piece of that leather to have that legacy as a part of their journey. And every time they put on those gloves or that vest or that hat, they know that they're continuing that. A few years ago, one of my Facebook friends posted that somebody in the community wanted to sell their boots because now they were older and it was uncomfortable for them to wear. And they were a pair of Wesco harness boots and a pair of Wesco engineer boots. And the one thing that they wanted to make sure was that the person who wore them would continue to live a full and active leather lifestyle. And so I was able to get both pairs of boots. And I had conversations with the person who was selling it. They weren't a friend of mine, but I was connected to them through the sale. And I was able to have conversations with them. I showed them how I restored the boots once I got them. And I wore one of the pairs of boots on stage at IMBB when they announced the winners. And so that night, I sent them a picture of the photo of me on stage wearing those boots. And I said, hey, just so you know, I wore your boots at IMBB, and I got first runner-up, and I won the Brotherhood Award. I didn't win, but you and your boots were with me as I was on stage. And they sent me a message about how touched they were. They never thought their boots would walk across that stage, and how much they loved the fact that their boots were living this life and still participating. And we had a really great series of conversations about that. And I love that about them. I love, Forge passed in January, and I loved being able to take some of his items and gift them to people as they were continuing on their journey, so that Forge was a part of their continuing development. And so those things, welcome Zeus to the podcast, those things are things that I really feel are a wonderful tradition to continue moving forward. With that being said, I also love that now people who want to include lingerie, which is a fetish and is extremely valid, people who wear rubber, people who don't own leather can participate in the community. People who don't believe in wearing the hide of an animal, and therefore they only do vegan leather. I love that there's room for them to be a part of it. But I also love the tradition of gifting leather. And as you mentioned, I think it's very important. One component of Bogart leather was, if someone had an honorific, you were able to trace and understand why they have that honorific. They had to demonstrate a proficiency in kinks, a commitment to the community, demonstrated integrity in order to get those titles. Where now, I've actually had a conversation with someone a few years ago who said, I identify as a sir, so I want you to address me as sir. Where it's like, but you haven't done the work.
And the work
You haven't done the work to get that, and it really is important. An example I shared with you earlier: if Khal and I are out somewhere and he falls ill, and I say, "Is there a doctor in the house?" I'm not looking for a PhD in literature, even though they are a doctor. What I need is a medical professional. And these titles really do matter because people who are looking to learn from someone who's demonstrated their knowledge and experience to the community and have this title, it makes it unsafe for people who are looking to them for guidance and they don't have the requisite knowledge and experience to make them appropriate to give.
Because sometimes these people operate with an expedience of, I want to be this, so I'm going to enter as this.
Right.
Do the work. Take your time. You will get there. Nothing you've done in life that you're good at came overnight. Take your time. Kink takes time. To pronounce yourself as something that you may not be is misleading. It's inauthentic. And it's potentially dangerous to both parties.
Yeah. The best singers in the world have vocal coaches. Whitney Houston had a vocal coach. And there's always in the house, we often say iron sharpens iron. We have the metallurgy story that backs our house tenants. And in that, it's important to recognize that there is a certain level of mentoring, development, growth that when it does happen, it produces a much better and stronger member of the community. And that being lost in a lot of ways is also poor. And also, I think that there are many times where people assume roles as a dominant and take on a submissive, and they aren't prepared to take that personally. They don't have the skills, maybe the empathy, maybe the whatever, to be in a position where now you're taking this other person's development and growth as your charge. And that results in a lot of people being injured in that process.
Either physically or emotionally.
Physically, mentally, emotionally. And,
because when you take on the sub, you take on the emotional needs as well.
Yeah.
And you have to be prepared for that. You have to make sure that you're in an emotional state to handle someone else's emotional state.
Mm-hmm. And I will tell you, in this last calendar year, in my life, I've underwent many, many changes. Health-wise, with the loss of Forge, that where I wasn't at all times in a place. I mean, there were times I literally just didn't have the spoons to handle someone else's stuff, and it can be very difficult to do that. And so recognizing that people have the skills, even just self-awareness to know right now, this is what I can do, allows the Dom to be more healthy and not to inflict damage on their subs, which is, of course, the first tenet of being a Dom is protect this property.
I'm going to share something. Coming into BDSM, I was involved with a triad, I'll say. And one of them gifted me my first piece of leather. Years later, I'm competing at the Mr. Eagle contest contest. Another one had gifted me a pair of boots. I'm on stage, and they are not with me physically, but I'm wearing the vest of one and the boots of another. So now they are with me, and it was it was a moment. I looked down, I'm like, wow, I got his boots, and I got his vest. And one of the things that gifting leather does, it also gifts love. It gives love. It is so important that you give love as well as leather. We need love in this community more than most things. We need love. So please understand, Old Guard gifted leather, but it was really gifted love.
And I mean, to that end, I would actually say love is the most important thing, because so many members of our community are people who don't receive love because of who they are. And the reason they're in the community is the reason they're not getting love anywhere else. So loving each other is the most important thing. Some of you may remember years ago when I was competing for Northeast Boot Black and IMBB. I competed under the banner, love leather, love each other, love yourself. Because love is actually one of the most important things you can do. Today, I'm sitting here, I'm wearing, this Garrison cap was Forge's, and these gloves were Forge's. And the gloves Forge gave to me years ago in a backwards exchange of leather. My boy gave me these gloves and said, now I realize that gloves really doesn't fit my role as a submissive, but I'd love for you to wear them. And even today, the reason I chose to wear this was because I wanted Forge with me today, since he was usually with me when we'd be sitting here in this room doing these podcasts. So there is that whole hand love down, take me with you on your journey, I'm with you, that I do love about that. But it seems that in our conversation, like basically what we've been talking about is we need to take the best of all of our leather culture, regardless of, and this is why I say to me, this conversation isn't relevant, because it's all our history.
Yes.
And they're all components of our community. So we can pick and choose the ones that are going to work best for us in this moment. And I feel like if we are able to do that, then we can individually and as a community really have the best experience that we can have possibly moving forward. So how do we move forward from this conversation into the conversations that we really should be having as a community?
I think we start with just being more welcoming to everyone. Start accepting everyone that wants a seat at the table, and let them sit down. Let them sit with you. Let them be with you. And instead of looking for similarities or 100% similarities, just identify the fact that they want to sit at my table. Have a seat. Because we can learn from each other. I can teach you something, and you can teach me something.
Mm-hmm.
And we all make mistakes when we think we can't learn anything from anyone else.
That is very true. That is very true. I will play devil's advocate for a second, and I'll say, in situations where you do accept everyone and allow everyone at your table, then you are also inviting potential problems,
yes,
to the table. So in addition to being more accepting, what are we going to put on the back end that ensures the safety and security of our community?
It's a great question. It's also a very hard question to answer,
Mm-hmm.
because in order to do that, there has to be some sort of scrutiny. And that scrutiny now puts us back to where you don't belong.
Well, but
Or do you belong?
or maybe you belong. Are you going to be a positive contributor, however? And I think those are two different things. I think the question of do people belong? Yes. That's an easy yes. But just because you are welcome doesn't mean that you will be
A welcome addition.
a welcome addition. And I think that unless there is some form of, I mean, and in everything you do in life, there's that.
True.
I mean,
True.
I mean, if you want to, you can't just apply for any job.
You can. You're not going to get it.
You're not going to get it. But and that's what and that's the point I'm making. If you want to be a doctor, you need medical training and experiences in order to be a doctor. That's why you go through residency and all of that stuff. After you become a doctor, you're still not allowed to practice on your own because there's still more training and preparing that needs to happen there. If you're a lawyer, you're not just like, here's your law degree, now go to court and represent this person. There is still a process of getting up to speed. Even what I do as a tech writer, when we hire new writers, they have to learn a bunch of things before we allow them to just go out and write.
Because they're all qualified to write, but they have to write your way.
They have to write our way. They have to understand how we communicate. So there is always that level of, first I have to get the job. Well, first I have to be trained. Then I have to get the job. And without the, are you trained? Do you know enough? Have you experienced enough? There's really no way to be certain that you can be safe. So I do believe that those two things need to go hand in hand. And those are conversations. I mean, I've challenged a number of people who are younger. The thing I always say to them is, right now, the world is a completely different place, even than it was when I first started jumping into leather in the late 90s. So how are we going to, with the tools we now have, how are we going to build an entire community where we can be safe? And let's focus on those conversations.
We have to be safe.
Because safety is paramount.
Definitely paramount.
Safety is really one of the most important things that we can be as a community. And so I really feel like our conversations need to move forward to the areas of our community where we're not safe. How can we be certain that people who take honorifics are worthy of that honorific?
So we need people coming in, say brand new people coming in the community. If you want to give yourself an honorific, still put yourself in a position of learning and training and building skills.
I don't know how anyone can walk in the door and take an honorific. You wouldn't.
I would agree.
If you join the military, you start as a private. If you join at a job, you're
on probation.
You're rarely hired without any previous experience to manage, to lead. And so if people are going to take these leadership roles, we talk a lot about vetting in communities, but where is the vet?
It's missing.
And so I think that really the conversation now needs to be, how are we going to blend? How are we going to take everything that we've learned and experienced in our community, keep the things that are important, or at least identify these were the goals of these actions? How are we going to now make sure that these goals are still met? And we can build new protocols. We can build new traditions. and all of that. I think the important thing is making sure that the reasons for these things are still being addressed if there's still needs.
And there are needs.
And there are needs.
And as leaders in the community, I guess one of the responsibilities we have to place upon ourselves is to make sure the people coming into the community understands the things they need so they can actually take on these honorifics.
Mhm.
We have to make sure, well, look, we see you trying to hold on to an honorific that you may not have yet.
Mhm.
Slow it down, learn. And we can point you in any direction, any kink you want to learn. Now you can start to call yourself this, that, and this particular kink. But you have to learn everything that you want to practice, and you have to do it well. You can't just, okay, I flogged somebody yesterday. I'm a master.
And I think that the other thing that's not always taken into consideration is even without community councils and all of that, the community recognizes people who have put in the time and the work
Yes.
to get places, and they will start identifying those people organically. It doesn't have to be something like that. If you think that you are a sir, but no one addresses you as sir, you should take a look and say, am I? And so there are all those things. But I feel like we really need to kind of look at our community and start with, what is it that our community needs now? Like, what are the glaring holes in our community now? And how are we going to reach them? That's the conversation that we should be having now. And
I would agree.
I think the are you old guard, are you new guard, it doesn't really matter. What's happening in our world? And how are we going to prepare ourselves to be safe and happy and
Because as we said, at the end of the day, this is about getting off and having a good time. Nothing is going to go against that than being with somebody who gives you a bad time, who injures you in any way, shape, or form.
And at the same time, as we discussed, there are also people who are coming to this community looking for community, looking for love, looking to share love and to be loved. And how are we going to create opportunities for people to come in and to be able to love safely and be loved safely? I think that's a good place to put a pin in the conversation.
You can go on and on and on and on.
We can go on, and we have. In the past, gone on and on and on.
Yes, two loquacious people.
But also to people who really love the community, live leather 24/7, in an out loud and proud way, and really just want the community to be as great as it can be for people. Because for many of us, this is our community.
Yes. And we want it to be safe and fun.
Safe and fun. So with that, we will ask Boyagoon to join us again and let us know if there are any questions that popped up in the chat or anything.
Yes, sir. So we actually do have a few questions. I'm going to show them on the screen and read them off. All right. So the first question comes from Trevor Marsh. And Trevor asks, what is the easier dynamic, old guard versus new guard, for someone coming into this community with social anxiety?
Well, I would say, I don't believe there's one construct or path based on old guard or new guard. I think that the most important thing is, what is it that you're looking to get out of this experience? And who is the best person to kind of usher you, like where should you go so that you can be ushered through that in a safe and healthy way where you can grow and develop and meet those goals. So that could be with someone who adheres to specific OGAR principles that matter to you. I know that people who have been members of my house have come because they appreciated the formality of some of our practices and rituals, and looking for that kind of structure. Others had just been really looking for the familial aspect. And so I think it's just important to identify what is it that you're looking for and who can help guide you on your journey to fulfilling those goals.
And I would say, first and foremost, though, is learn how to manage as best you can your anxiety, whether that be through professional help, meds, or whatever. You can't, well, you can, but if you come in leading with anxiety, chances are the people that you're coming into may not understand your level of anxiety, and that makes it hard to give you what you might need. So get a handle on your anxiety, whether like I said, whether that's through medical professionals, meds, or whatever. You have to have a handle on your anxiety. Otherwise, you're probably going to fall short of what you may need and want from the community.
Yeah, I mean, it really goes back to introspection. Understanding who you are and what you're looking for will help you to identify to people, this is what I want to do, and this is the support that I'm going to need in order to get there. Because, I mean, I've had members of the house who weren't necessarily battling what would be diagnosed as a social anxiety, but who didn't feel confident in a number of different areas. And it's like, so you may need somebody who is going to help bolster or a group of people. You may need support that was going to help you to become confident enough to do things. And if you do have a level of anxiety that would prevent you from moving forward, finding a group of people who you will be safe with as you navigate your anxiety in this community. But that level of understanding of yourself, of what is it that you need, and being able to communicate that will be very helpful as you move forward in that journey. And I will say, not everyone is prepared to help everyone with their individual issues, anxiety or otherwise. And so finding that person or that group of people who are capable and empathetic enough to deal with that is going to be the key.
Okay, so now we're going to move on to our next question from Boy Io. Boy Io asks, is there any literature that you may suggest that can give resources that can influence the walk of leather and can help us find our leather identity?
I mean, there's a wealth of resources out there in terms of books but also videos on YouTube, websites that have good information. And it's really hard so that's a general question, but I really think the answer is specific. So needs to be specific. So I can't recommend any resource without knowing more specifically what it is you're looking to learn. What role interests you now? Like, how do you feel? What do you feel would be beneficial to you and pleasurable to you in your journey? For people who appreciate serving, they'll go down one road. People who appreciate training and development and all of that will go down a different road. And that's why, as I was mentioning before, finding that support from a person or group of people who can really understand what it is you're looking to learn and direct you to that next step is very important. One thing I will say though is, while, as people say, Google is your friend, um, do a good deal of research if you're starting with Google. Read 5 articles, and then you'll see you learn 4 different perspectives, and ingest that, and then continue down the path that is going to give you the thing that you specifically. Don't just read one article and take it as fact, because while Google will bring up a whole bunch of stuff, YouTube will bring up a whole bunch of stuff. YouTube is embedding that content, and Google is embedding that you're getting a person's opinion. And I'll even say, even in the course of this podcast today, you're getting an opinion from me and Khal. And none of this should be taken as gospel. Even though I encourage anyone listening just to believe everything I say as the resident expert on everything. But in all seriousness, really take time to read and research different opinions on the same topic, and then understand where you fall and continue moving in that direction.
Coming into community, if you're a sub looking for a serve, a lot of subs seems to come in with a list of things that they want. And you have to understand that you're looking to serve. So it's not about what you want. It's about what your serve wants. Now, your needs are important. So you have to align yourself up with a serve that actually has your needs and his needs in sync. But a lot of subs come into the looking for what they want. And you can't be, I'm looking to be submissive how I want. No, it's about what the serve wants. And you have to know how to vet a serve to see that this serve can give you the things you want and need. And that's not as easy as it sounds. It's much like dating. Not everybody you date you can be with. Not everybody you talk to is going to be a serve for you. Not everybody you talk to is going to be a boy for you. So it takes time. It takes knowing exactly what you can offer. And see, I'm not saying exactly what you can receive. Is what you can offer. So much of community for me, and I will say for SteeleToe as well. What do you have to give? A lot of times people are looking for what they can give, but what do you have to give? And that's very important, because if all you are is a vessel that can receive, what does that do for anybody else? What do you do? How do you uplift someone else? How do you build someone else if all you're looking to is to receive? This is quid pro quo. You have to give. And you have to give, especially as some, you have to give more than you receive. So if you're looking, know what you can give. Know that you have something to give. And if you don't know what you have to give, take time and, what can I give? What do I want to give? And you have to give of yourself truly and fully. This is not something that you're gonna do haphazardly and half-heartedly. You have to be committed to it fully.
I think I would almost say that in the vetting process, you can find a sub can find a dom who's going to give them what they want, and not necessarily what they want, but what they're looking for. So they can find a dom who can help them achieve the things they want to achieve on their journey. And I think you can go. You and I have completely different styles when it comes to how we would deal with our subs. And so someone who would be an amazing sub for you would probably not, or who would have an amazing experience as your sub, may not have an amazing experience as my sub, because your style is different, the things that you focus on are different, your experience and your knowledge is different. And so I think you can find that pairing, but it really comes down to understanding what it is you want and what it is, and what this person, if this person is capable of bringing you there. And I also think, conversely, I actually feel like good doms give more than they expect from their subs because they're modeling service. And I think the service looks different. And I mean, as you mentioned, I'm a whole person dom. Like, I'm not only going to focus on a person's kink. If somebody's having a hard time at work or with some family issues or something, they're not going to be able to focus on the kink specifically. I want to help them get to a healthy place in any situation so that they can be a healthy sub. And so I do think that I think that what you said is important. It's that in that vetting, understanding I'm looking for these things, and then matching yourself up with a dom or a sub who's looking to do those or many of those things is the thing that's important.
Okay, so now we have our next question from Peg. And Peg asks, there has been a lot of controversy surrounding Old Guard, mostly stating it's especially exaggerated myths by numerous people who are seasoned in age and have been around for it, if it existed as commonly portrayed.
Well, I'm going to say this. I mean, and you can do your research, but in many ways, there are people who, there are sources that will say Old Guard leather really ended after the 60s into the 70s, because that's when changes in many of the elements of Old Guard started to change, including the presentation in the 70s, what looks like masculinity. There was a great shift in the late 60s into the 70s. So there are many sources that will say Old Guard leather really ended in the 70s. And if you think about the fact I was born in 73 and I'm 52 right now, there aren't many people who live that level of Old Guard. And when we look and we hear about Old Guard traditions and things, we're talking about the 40s and 50s. And that was such a different time and place that even if those people were transported to now, it would probably look much more different than it does now. So keeping that in mind is very important. I don't really think that there are as many. I mean, I've had people tell me that I am Old Guard and basing that on my age. And it's like, no, when I came into leather, Old Guard was done. And a lot of that was because the AIDS epidemic wiped out an entire generation of doms who were training. And a lot of people had to step up in communities and take leadership on just because there was a dearth in leadership because of the impact of the AIDS epidemic. And I came into the leather community post the AIDS epidemic.
You lost an entire generation.
Yeah, and I started in the very late 90s. I took my first class in kink in 1998. It was rope bondage. I think a lot of times what we ascribe as Old Guard is technically not. And that's where understanding the history of leather is very, very important if we're going to move forward. Now, with that being said, what I will say is, and I'll say again, I think that we need to deconstruct this whole conversation and say, in the history of leather, we have all of these tools. Which of these tools serves us well now? And what were the goals that these tools were trying to accomplish? Like, what were the reasons for this? Do those reasons still exist? And if they do, what can we do now in 2025 to address those reasons? And so I will say, when I came out in the 90s, when I was out in the 90s, there really wasn't a lot of conversation about all of these gender identities and all this stuff. You were gay or straight.
And you saw the toxic sort of box.
And being gay was enough to get you killed. And in some places still. But back then, especially, like when we were leaving bars, we had buddy systems. No one walked to their car by themselves. And if you look at old leather traditions, the silent alarms and things like that, not necessary now. I can share my location with Khal and then go to a hookup. That wasn't the case back then. So do we need to carry silent alarms forward? No. Do we need to continue the process of someone knowing where you're going when you're going for these hookups? Yes, for your own safety, because people are still hunting gay people to prosecute. Our trans brothers and sisters who are in great physical danger right now, like their lives are in danger, but also many other aspects of their well-being are in danger right now. What do we need to put in place to make sure they're safe? And how can some of the things we used to do to keep our other gay men safe, how can we apply them so that our trans siblings are safe? And what more can we do? And I think that's really where the conversations need to go. We can't evaluate old guard processes and things based on 2025. We have to look at them for the time period where they existed and say, these things made sense then, or they were put in place then because of this. Now is a different time.
Yeah, I mean, consider we've had the AIDS epidemic, we've had a sexual revolution, and we've had a computer age. All those things have changed what New Guard once was. So what Old Guard once was. So now it's watered down. It's different, and I think a different way to put what Steele just said is we can cherry pick what we need from each and meld those together. And moving forward, this is how we move in the community. Is with a cherry picking of what works then and what works now, and just move forward and safety, so we can continue to have safe fun.
And back in the day, the hanky code and other things like where you carried your keys and things of that nature was meant for you to be able to communicate to people in a way where only the people who knew what that meant knew what you were saying. So you were able to safely communicate. Now,
safely and silently.
But now Grindr tells all your business ahead of time. So we're in a different place now. The hanky code is all over the internet. Now we use it to pick what color we're going to pipe our leather and stuff like that. So it's not that the hanky code is no longer relevant. We're just using it differently.
It's expanded.
The use of it has changed, and that's what we need. That's how we need to look at all of these principles. So I would say, to answer that question, reframe that question and say, what elements of our leather community do we need most right now? And let's focus on making sure that those things exist so we can be happy and healthy.
Our world has changed. So it's only natural that the way we can change it. It has to.
Okay, and our final question is from Corey. And Corey asks, where is the new table? And have we built it yet? What is the vetting process being taught to the children?
Where is the table, huh?
That's a great question.
I think the table lives within us. And we have to decide who we allow at that table and how we find a new way to vet people. I don't know what that is right now.
Well, I would say one of the main differences now is there were many tables. You know, at the time of Old Guard, you had to be part of a community, and it was geographically bound typically because there was no internet. People were brought in to the community by other vetted members of the community, and that was part of your vetting process and all of that. Where now there are many tables. This platform is a table. The House of Steel is a table. I'm a member of Onyx. That is a table. I'm a member of the New Jersey Leather family, and that is a table. So now there are many tables. The problem is the same conversations aren't taking place at every table. And there's not a unified process of looking at these issues and figuring out how we can make these issues better. So I feel like it's probably going to be a grassroots thing where one group teaches principles that are found by the general community to be sound, and then those are adopted in a greater way.
We have to agree that this conversation needs to take place at every table.
But we have to agree that this is the conversation, which is one of the reasons we're having this talk today, to reframe the old guard versus new conversation.
Okay. And that is all the questions from the chat.
Thank you, Boyogo. So thank you all for joining us for this conversation. Feel free to share this video if you think that there are people who would be interested in this dialogue. It's available on the House of Steel Facebook page for the next 30 days, and also on the House of Steel YouTube page, which you could find at HOF Steel, STEELE, on YouTube, and you can subscribe to our channel and see this and all of our other educational efforts that we put out. And Boyogun, why don't you tell everyone what's coming up in the future?
Well, yes, sir. So we have 2 classes that are coming up that everyone will enjoy. The first class is going to be Yucks You May Yum, that will be hosted by Master SteeleToe the Boot Black, as well as Goddix Jade and on Dark Age Play. And so that will be held on October the 5th at 2 p.m. And then following that, we're going to then have another installment of the Dynamics of Dynamics with Master SteeleToe, as well as Protege Reese. And they'll be discussing the Submissive's Power on October the 19th, starting at 2 p.m.
So thank you all for joining. Feel free on the House of Steel Facebook page to suggest topics that you'd love for us to talk about or that you'd like to learn about. And until then, we wish you peace, prosperity, and passion, and lots of pleasure.
And you can reach me at Khal Onyx or Khal on Facebook. Khal Onyx on Facebook. Like if you want to extend this conversation, you want to have offline talk, let's talk. I'm always here. I'm always have a good conversation. So if you want to talk, hit me up. Let's talk.
And Khal is Khal, just so all of you can easily find him there. So thank you all for joining. Please enjoy your day and have a safe week, and we look forward to seeing you in a couple weeks.
Take care.